Now on KGW News, the thaw is on, but the struggle continues for many tonight.
I got 4 kids at home and we're all freezing.
Power crews rush to repair all the lines ripped down by the ice and falling trees.
The magnitude of the damage is so tremendous.
Pretty hellish, to be honest. Just stuff coming down nonstop.
The weight of the icy mix even collapsing the roof of this grocery store. And now, the weather's threatening the next round of the vaccine rollout. We begin here at 11 with Portland and the Valley cleaning up. The waves of snow and ice leaving a mess in their wake. From collapsed roofs to problems with falling trees and power lines. In one case, starting a fire. In many others, leaving people in the dark. Thanks for joining us tonight at 11. I'm Laurel Porter. Tens of thousands are still without power tonight all around the region. We'll go through the cleanup effort and damage in a moment. But let's begin with our first forecast and Chief Meteorologist Matt Zaffino. So Matt, hopefully the worst is behind us weather-wise?
Weather-wise, yeah. We got an assist today with those temperatures climbing to the upper 40s, even low 50s, and the melt began. And the good news is there will not be a refreeze overnight tonight. Temperatures will be dropping into the mid-30s, but I don't think we'll get any lower than that. If we were to get some clearing a few places because of the snow cover, that helps to cool the air, obviously. We could get some patchy ice forming, but I think that's really going to be limited, if not non-existent altogether. Outside right now, it's 43 out of the airport. West winds at 11 there. Some temperatures are cooler, though. It's 37 in King City. Here in downtown, we're at 39. But look at Troutdale at 44. About 3-4 o'clock, they finally punched out of the 30s and into the 40s. The rest of the gorge has yet to do that. You can see it's still at freezing in Underwood, 29 in Mosier. I saw one temperature down in Wasco County, of course, of 22. So there's still some cold air trapped out there. And I-84 near Rufus was partially shut down tonight because of freezing rain. That's where the trouble spot is. Mainly now the eastern gorge. As you can see, Hood River is up to 34 degrees. So definitely some good news even for the gorge tonight. The temperatures are warming as these west and southwest winds really overtaking the entire region, taking a little bit longer to work their way out through the Columbia Basin. So the freezing rain and snow will continue there. And up in the Cascades, too, where a winter weather advisory is in effect. A lot of snow coming to the Cascades tonight and tomorrow. I'll show you how much. And then also on Thursday. Here's what we can expect overnight, though. We will stay above freezing. So obviously great news there. Sun and showers again tomorrow, sort of like today. They will wind down late in the day. And the rain that comes again on Thursday and even into Friday looks possibly heavy. We'll talk about how much is on the way. Laurel, back to you.
Still a lot to talk about. Thank you, Matt. We do have some more good news to share with you for traveling around the area. I-84 has reopened in both directions tonight between I-5 and I-205. PG crews have been making emergency repairs. They said power lines were in danger of falling onto the freeway, forcing things to close down for a few hours this afternoon, but it is back open again. And this is far from the only problem they're dealing with.
This really has been a historic storm. It's, we're sort of trying to figure out the numbers, but it may count as the worst storm that we've ever had in our service area.
It sure feels like that, doesn't it? In all, more than 200,000 PGE customers throughout Portland and the Willamette Valley do not have power tonight. And that's after crews already restored power to about 150,000 people. They've had to call in backup from as far away as Nevada and Montana. Fallen trees that have damaged power lines, PGE equipment, and even substations are the main culprit. PGE said it cannot offer estimates on when power will be restored because of just how widespread the damage is. For some, the power issues have gone on for days at this point. Meteorologist Joe Ranieri has more on what the damage looks like in West Linn and Clackamas County.
This has got to be the most wildest scene I've seen in any neighborhood so far during this snow and ice storm. This is West Linn, where neighbors tell me at one point they had about an inch thick of ice on these trees that came crashing down. They've also been without power since late last week.
Walk through this neighborhood off of Ponderosa Loop.
All the streets like this, they're all like this. It's amazing. It looks like a tornado just hit this whole area.
And you're going to either be stepping over fallen tree branches or ice, and a lot of it.
Probably about an inch or two, not that much. But after the snow, the freezing rain came, and it just had a layer of ice over the snow.
Roy Rott said there was at least an inch of ice around his neighborhood. In some areas, it was a lot more.
I'm not kidding when I tell you, this piece of ice right here is about as thick as the handle on a baseball bat.
The weight of the ice basically broke the branches.
The trees didn't have a chance against all of that weight.
So we haven't had any power since Thursday night all the way up to right now.
That was 5 days ago. Utility crews have spent the last few days driving all over the metro area trying to restore power. In Lake Oswego at this apartment complex?
Well, it sounded last night like trees were exploding in the background. If you open up your window or open up your back porch, it's really scary.
Cars weren't just buried in ice and snow.
The icicles were lovely on the trees, but you could hear them cracking the trees.
They were also covered by trees.
Thankfully, our cars were spared, but the majority of the neighbors have damage to their cars.
Back in Roy's neighborhood,
We had the ice just crumbling down, and you heard the cracking and everything else.
he's glad the thaw and the warm-up has finally begun and the cracking has stopped too. Joe Ranieri, KGW News.
Wow, what a terrible mess there. And it's not just fallen trees. Collapsed roofs are a problem too. From Sky 8, you can see the damage after a partial collapse. This is at a Safeway store in Troutdale. The roof just buckled under the weight of all that snow and ice. Fortunately, there were no serious injuries. There was also another roof collapse in Gresham. This building was flattened. The aftermath of the ice storm is a big problem in Marion County too right now. They're also dealing with power outages as well as cell and internet service issues. Whether it's Turner, Hubbard, or Salem, the stories are the same of a twisted mess to clean up.
There are power lines still today, right now, that are tangled up in trees that are laying on top of houses. And the estimates to get power restored is I think, wishful thinking at this point, because so much of it is still so intertwined and tangled up into people's backyards.
Really has been a historic storm, and some people said they had to leave their towns just to try to get some cell reception. The outages are also impacting the COVID vaccine rollout. Power went out at some vaccination sites, forcing staff to scramble to keep those doses from going bad. And as Mike Benner reports, the weather is also impacting delivery of the next round of doses.
Get out of there. The mass vaccination site at the Oregon Convention Center opened 2 hours late Monday. As you can imagine, weather was to blame. But we found out dicey conditions would not keep people from getting their shot. Take, for instance, the woman who walked a half mile for the vaccine.
I had to be super careful looking for snow patches rather than looking for ice patches, so it was incredibly difficult.
We met somebody else who drove in from the hills of Oregon City.
I'm a healthcare worker. It's risking the people that I work with and the risk to myself. It's being socially responsible.
And good thing they got their shot. KGW has learned power went out at some of the Oregon vaccination sites. That spells doom for the freezers that hold the vaccines. The Oregon Health Authority is moving doses elsewhere to keep them from spoiling. On top of that, canceled flights out of Kentucky and Tennessee are delaying COVID-19 vaccine shipments across the country. The OHA is keeping in touch with the CDC to ensure Oregon doses are safe. Vaccine delivery will be delayed in Washington state as well, that according to the state's Department of Health. And appointments to get the first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine will be extremely limited as they focus on second doses. That will be the case at the mass vaccination site in Ridgefield. Mostly second dose appointments there, except for first dose appointments that had to be rescheduled because of bad weather over the weekend. Back at the Oregon Convention Center, all of the hiccups across the region is reason for people who are getting their shots to feel a little better about their situation.
My health is first priority, especially right now, and self-care is the most important thing right now, especially with all the events that happened in 2020.
Isn't that the truth? Hopefully, brighter days are ahead. For starters, the next round of appointments for Portland's mass vaccination sites open Thursday morning at 9. In Portland, Mike Benner for KGW News.
Even as the city thaws out, there is still a lot of work ahead for road crews. Several streets, like a portion of West Burnside, are shut down due to downed trees and power lines. Clearing snow and slush is also a top priority. Main roads have drastically improved, but side streets can still be a mess.
We're getting where we need to be, and that things are thawing out there, but there's still a lot of ice out on the roads. People still need to be very, very careful out there.
That's the truth, and the farther out of town you go, the more treacherous it gets, warns ODOT. So be prepared. I was driving around inner northeast Portland tonight, and there are a lot of roads blocked by fallen trees no matter where you go. So if you have to travel anywhere tomorrow, be really careful. TriMet is slowly getting its buses up and running again. The agency says tonight about half of its bus lines have returned to full or partial service. Some were even able to take off chains this afternoon. MAX trains are limited but slowly expanding too. The Blue Line is now running between Hatfield Government Center in Hillsborough and the Gateway Transit Center. Check TriMet's website for the latest on restoration and alerts.